I think it goes without saying, if I haven't said it before, I don't know what I'm doing. So this is literally just me, an average person, trying to figure stuff out. Darcy and I are doing makeovers today.
Yep.
One of us is dyeing our hair pink.
Me.
Darcy is. And I am dyeing mine just like a really dark brown because some of the hair that was blonde, that I had dyed blonde earlier in the year, is now starting to get lighter, so gotta darken that up a bit. We should paint our nails.
Yeah. How about pink for me and then the same color as the hair that you're dyeing yours?
Oh, okay. So let's check this out.
So this is my dark pink dye hair. And
this, so we went to Sally Beauty.
this is mommy's.
Yeah, so we went to Sally Beauty's and I asked if they had any washout.
And they said, we do.
And there were a whole bunch of color options. And this is like a really, really dark pink. And then I went ahead and got a very, very dark brown. I always go with Wella, the permanent hair color. So this is a semi-permanent, which means it can be washed out. Wella also has a demi-permanent. And I already had the developer, but I went ahead and I got one of their hair bottle kits. And then I also am gonna do like a whole facial thing. It's been a while since I've done that, so I'll show you what products I use. Maybe you guys can give me tips. But yeah, I'm kind of roughing it right now. And I did see you guys had some great questions from the Respite Care video, so I wanted to answer those in this video, just because sometimes it's harder to explain in a comment versus actually talking through it. Oh, look at how pink it is.
I love that kind of pink.
I didn't think this through.
I have to squirt it on the tab for 20 seconds and then bottom it, and then like after 10 seconds you water it, and then after you water it just let it dry and then it's all done.
How about we do a peekaboo?
What's a peekaboo? Well, we know like peekaboo, but what's a peekaboo for you?
It means that some of the hair is going to cover it. So we're going to do this much pink.
Good idea. And then in the middle, no side.
Okay. So now,
I don't like this.
well, this is how the pink doesn't get on the rest of your hair. So it's going to stay there until we have to wash it out, okay? Okay, so we went ahead and we did two kind of peekaboo highlights here. So what that means is that the middle of the hair is not done, and it just makes it like more of a subtle, fun look. So we're gonna see how this turns out. And this is gonna wash out in 20 washes, and it's like a natural fade. So while this sits, I'm gonna go ahead and mix up my color, and then once hers is washed out, I'm gonna start applying my color. For my process, it's gonna be a lot easier because this time I'm just doing all over color. So I'm gonna start and I'm going to brush my hair out and then go ahead and section it off. And I always do it when my hair is dirty, because somebody once told me that that's when you should dye your hair, probably like a stylist. But yeah, you can see like my hair is naturally dark. The sun will lighten it, but also when I had gotten my hair done and lightened it in the front, now those pieces, once the color kind of fades, it's not a good look for me. I always wear a black tank top when I'm doing my hair so that it doesn't get ruined. Now I'm gonna go ahead and put the gloves on, and now that I'm going through this process, I realize I didn't have to buy the whole kit because I don't use the gloves, I don't use the cape, I'm only using the bottle. So it's been a while since I've done my hair, so we're gonna just learn from that lesson. And now you guys can critique me, because this is not going to be pretty. All I do is just start at the root And then I start to saturate all the way down. And then once I feel like it's pretty saturated, I just twist it up, and if it stays, perfect. If not, I use the clip. Okay, so I cleaned up everything. I cleaned up the spots. Inevitably, there was some on the floor and I got some on the door, so cleaned all of that up. We're waiting for Darcy's hair to dry to see how pink it is, but we can already see a little bit of it. So now while I wait the extra 10 minutes, what I'm gonna do is use my handy dandy tools. I'm going to do some plucking, some trimming, and some face shaving, which this is what I like to do before I do an at-home microdermabrasion, because I like to get all the excess, kind of like a dermaplane, but obviously not as intense. But I kind of do like a dermaplane, and then I do a microdermabrasion, and it feels like basically just like salts and oil. I think if you make it at home, there's some kind of a recipe that you can do, but basically it's either like a sugar or a salt, like very, very small, with a little bit of oil, and you just kind of rub to exfoliate any dead skin cells. I'm not going to show you that process because it probably is not going to look too pretty, but I'm going to do that. Then I'm going to wash out the hair dye, and I'll show you what comes next. Okay, so I'm out of the shower. My hair is definitely a lot darker. I think it was a success. What I also do is I put in like a deep conditioner after I rinse out as much color as I can. I let that sit. I also make sure I grab a bad towel to dry my hair with because it always has some amount of residue. And now I went ahead and I did microdermabrasion. My face is really smooth and soft. Still have some blemishes that I'm trying to clear up. And I know some of the steps that I'm gonna do all in one. For me, I don't get a lot of time to have like a regimen and do things on a regular basis. I know that's what you're supposed to do. You're probably not supposed to do all of these back to back. I think when I do kind of like the razor and the microdermabrasion, that's great, along with what I'm gonna show next, which is my facial steamer. But I think the next step I probably should not be doing after all of this because I'm putting oil on my face. I'm probably gonna be getting oil in my pores, which is not a good thing. But then I use one of these roller sets, and it's one of those things that like TikTok made me buy it. I'm not consistent with it, but I really need to try to set aside like 1 day a week, 2 days a week, where I just go to bed early, I do this whole process, and hopefully it'll improve my skin. So the way that the facial steamer works, you put in some water, you insert it. Mine I got on Amazon. It was pretty inexpensive, probably better qualities out there, so I'll do some research on what's best. You power it on, you let it heat up, and then steam will start to come out. You let the steam hit your face. I'm sure there's like a recommended like distance, but I kind of get it as close as I can, unless it starts to hurt. So what I think the facial steamer does is it really just kind of clears out your pores, it opens your pores up, clears them out. So I think I will, before I do the oil and the rollers, I'm gonna just get really cold water and try to like splash it on my face, close up my pores. I think it goes without saying, if I haven't said it before, I don't know what I'm doing. So this is literally just me, an average person, trying to figure stuff out. So I'm gonna put a little bit of oil on my forehead. And this is just vitamin E oil. You're supposed to do like 10 times on each spot. Don't ask me what this is supposed to do. It will make your forehead red where you're doing it. I guess there's like something under your skin that kind of gets built up, and this is supposed to kind of break it up or something like that. Someone in the comments, feel free to explain what this does. So now my forehead is nice and red. Put a little bit of oil here. Do the little roller, pulling everything away and up. And then this is the scraping tool, and you go along your jawline. This is where I think I need it the most, because you can actually like feel what's under your skin, like calcium deposits. If you do this with regularity, you're supposed to have really good results. I'm not regular with it. Okay, so then I'm gonna clean those tools off, put them back. Gonna rub in the extra oil and let that absorb into my skin, nourish my skin, and then I'm gonna sit and relax for a little bit. On this side, like it's pretty subtle, but then if you pull back, she's got all that pink. So it's just a little bit of fun. Do you like it? This will look really cool with braids because when we braid your hair, you'll be able to see it throughout the braid. Right now I have my camera propped up on my plant. I don't think this is gonna work. I need better tools. I'm not very good at this. Our bathroom is not set up for video. So I'm gonna be like going down like this. But some of you have commented about all the different eyeshadows that I've been using, and a friend of mine had told me about ColourPop, how their palettes have some of the highest pigments. I love the way that everything goes together. So this is Nude Mood. That's one of my favorite every day. If I want the pinks and the maroons, I do Blush Crush. Some are shimmery, some are matte. And then this is a really fun one. I don't use it that much, but High Tide.
So blue.
So many blues. So today I'm just gonna go, since we're just seeing my family, I just wanna put a little bit on.
Yes, this I met a bit. So which one is he going to pick?
So first I'm gonna start with this. Go up on the top part of my eyelid, not eyelash.
Eyelid.
I'll show you how quick this is because I don't have time. Then I get this, which is more of the nude color, and put that on top of my eyelid just as the base. And what people are starting to do is I'm used to doing like the light colors and then do my darks. But I was actually seeing that some people do the dark first and then overlay it. So I'm gonna give that a try, and I'm just gonna go for a pretty easy, it's got a little shimmer, it's not super dark. And I'm just gonna do that in my corner, outside corner, pull that in, go up a little bit for some depth. This is literally all I do, guys. Same with the other side. My eyes never match. I bet they hear Sawyer screaming downstairs. John has to deal with that. And what I really like about doing the eyes first is all the extra stuff you're gonna cover up with concealer or foundation. I've got my outsides, now I'm gonna go in. We'll just do this. This is not a makeup tutorial, I'm just showing you guys a little bit of some of the products and how little I know. So for an everyday look, I just do the base and then those two colors. And then once I realized that most people wear concealer, I picked this up to try it out, and I still have it. So this is the Wet n Wild. Has a little sponge applicator, which makes it super easy. And then I just go under my eyes.
I'm not going to play with it.
Hit some red spots, which right now is a lot. Then of course you need the sponge. Blend it in a little bit. On average days, I don't wear foundation. I just make sure that this is kind of blended out a little bit. Blend, blend, blend.
Blend, blend, blend.
And I know it's cheap, but the Wet n Wild has my favorite eyebrow pencil. It's retractable, it's super easy, and I just go over really quick. I've noticed the days that I have the eyebrows done, it looks like I'm more put together, so just quickly do that. And by far my favorite mascara, when I went into Ulta, I simply asked the girl, like, what's your best mascara? And what I had been using, like, I would just get any old, like, hey, CoverGirl, Lash Fusion, yeah. But the difference in this is insane. So I'm gonna show you guys one side and then the other, so you can see how crazy this is. So that's one application. Obviously this eye has nothing. This eye has the, what is it called? Lash Princess by Essence. This is like just such a game changer.
I had this one before. It was with your new one.
Yeah.
So sad.
So typically on an everyday, I would just use the CoverGirl. I'm trying to, you know, work through some of my older makeup. But for today, I really wanted to feel myself. Dark hair, big lashes. Okay, I'm back, and this is actually the next day. We got a chance to paint Darcy's nails, but I never got a chance to do mine, so I'm gonna do that now. And I'm also gonna answer those questions about the respite care video. And I do just wanna mention, watching back the footage of me doing my face and doing makeup, I know I'm gonna get roasted in the comments. I'm like, watching it back, I'm like, oh my gosh, I look like an absolute idiot. But that's okay. And like my face was super, super red, not only because, you know, I haven't been taking care of myself, but also initially after you do all those treatments, like your skin is kind of like fired up and, you know, more red than usual. Today, I will say I woke up and my skin felt so much better. It looked so much better. So I'm definitely going to be incorporating this in improving my, you know, diet, because that has a lot to do with it. But hopefully we'll start seeing a change. But yeah, don't be too harsh on me. I promise you, I'm just a normal person. I do not know what I'm doing. All right, so let me pull out the questions and start to do my nails. These are gel nail strips from Dashing Diva, and these tend to stay on a lot longer than some of the other ones, and super easy to apply with really fun designs. So I'm kind of obsessed with this. I decided to do this instead of keeping up with like nail appointments, because, you know, I obviously haven't been working and can't really have that kind of a cost. Like, there's no point in me having my nails done. So yeah, this was just kind of in between, and I'm gonna use all these up. I'm all set up now for my nails. I've gotten a few done, and I've got my cell phone pulled up with the questions from this last video. So this person's question is, they were wondering if we ask the other family what kind of rules they have, like bedtime or not drinking soda. Do we apply the same rules? So for the first part of this question, yes, we like to respect the existing habits of the family. And I think we're extra cautious when it comes to children who are in foster care, because those routines and that stability, you know, we don't necessarily know their progress with any kind of personal hygiene, independence, responsibility, life skills. You know, we don't know everything, and we are trusting in that caregiver to give us enough information so that we can just do right by the kids. And in some cases in the past, we have had experiences where, you know, they'll share a couple of rules that they want to have applied. And other times they say, you know, no, whatever your rules are, you know, they'll abide by those rules. And I don't love that, because that puts the child in a position where, you know, they don't know what to expect because they don't know us. So in my opinion, I would recommend, you know, the foster caregiver who the child is currently living with, share with the respite provider what they're used to. And then the second part of this question is, if you're the long-term family, do you have anything or any say over the family that provides respite? So maybe saying that, you know, hey, we've used this respite provider in the past and we don't want to use them again in the future. You know, maybe it's because they have an animal that the child is afraid of. And they also mentioned religious differences. And yes, I think that as the foster caregiver, you can communicate those preferences. And if you've had an experience, good or bad, with a previous respite, you can express that. You know, you have to advocate for what's best for the child. So I would definitely recommend doing that. However, just be prepared that if there's not a lot of respite homes available, that may mean that you're not going to be able to use respite. And, you know, I do think that ultimately you want what's best for the child. So you have to err on that side. But I hope that answers your question. Then there's another comment that has a question from Aurora's for the Win. I see them comment a lot, so hello. Their question is, I'd be curious if you knew whether certain times of year are busier with respite requests or if there's always a constant need. Just thinking about around the holidays, does that mean there's more requests for respite? So yeah, good question. I think that it does kind of ebb and flow, and I would imagine when families are traveling more in different parts of the year, the requests might go up. Also, maybe more stressful times of the year, you can also see a spike. But it is really hard to tell. So I would say there's always going to be a constant need, and, you know, like us, we aren't exactly talking about what respite we are or aren't providing, because we are talking with our agency about what is appropriate to share during this experience. But I did ask our caseworker when we hadn't really gotten many calls, if it was a low point. And so, yeah, it just depends, unfortunately. And then Mesha Hayes, who I am planning on sending that leather bag to you. I have it almost all ready to go. I just have to write you a little card. So that's on its way. But she has a couple of questions. So she asks, how often can a foster parent request respite? And is it frowned upon in like the foster care society, foster care culture? So yeah, great question. And this does come up. I would say from my experience in the past, our previous agency kind of had a cap, and I think it was like 11 days over the course of a year that you could have respite. I don't exactly know how they came up with that number, probably a case-by-case basis. Generally, I would think that the caseworker, social worker is going to maybe see that as a red flag if you have a lot of respite requests. It means that either you have a very busy schedule and it's difficult for you to be fostering at that time, and that's just an example, might not be the case, or that maybe this is a challenging placement and you need other services to help you prepare. As far as it being frowned upon, I would say yes and no. It's something that inevitably can happen and is needed. I do think it's best for the child, if possible, to have them staying in respite with someone they already know. So making sure that your family and friends in your little village is getting the certifications necessary so that they can be that respite. You can also see what's possible if there are existing family members in the child's life. While the child or children are in foster care, maybe there are biological relatives who can meet the qualifications. So definitely explore those options. It's possible. Sometimes respite is last minute notice and your family is going to have conflicts, and so you have to go with a stranger respite. Unfortunately, I think it is frowned upon. I know my views have changed a little bit. I used to kind of frown upon it, but I do know that there are going to be times where it's just needed. And I think it's more frowned upon when a foster parent is using respite because they truly need a break and not because they're going on a trip or something like that. I think that's when there can be a negative connotation, like they can't handle the child and their behaviors. And I don't think that that's fair. It's not a fair judgment. So I hope that answers the first part of your question. And then separately, what is the cutoff for respite before it becomes a placement? Obviously, it's not a placement, but is there a cutoff and the legalities of respite? So I'm not sure exactly what the legalities are, to be honest. In the length of stay, I would say, more than 2 weeks, you're talking, that would be 2 weeks is a pretty long respite. I think that from what I've heard, respite is either a few days or up to a week. In other circumstances, I could see maybe 2 weeks if there's like a whole lot going on. But yeah, I think that if a foster caregiver was requesting respite for an extended amount of time or repeatedly asking for respite, I think that that is a red flag that the caseworker and social worker need to have a conversation and see, hey, how do we make this work? It's kind of one of those things where you need to address the root of the problem and not just what the symptoms look like. And she also has one more question, which is, do parents, meaning biological parents, have any say on respite care? At least I'm assuming you're meaning the biological, the primary parents. And the answer to that is no. The same way that they do not have any say in where the children are placed in a foster care home, they're not going to have any say when it comes to respite. And this does bring up a really good topic, because if we're working closely with primary parents, we can identify those extended relatives who might be more comfortable for the child to stay with versus another stranger. Because when children are placed in foster care, they're meeting a strange family, a strange environment, and every time they go to respite, if it's not with someone they already know, it can be uncomfortable. I have had a lot of guilt in the past when we have needed to use respite. I worry about the children and, how they're feeling, and, we try to prepare them as much as possible and really communicate with the respite care providers to make sure that they're prepared. So I do think it would be better for families and children if we could kind of extend and include the relatives of the children and see if they can get background checked and fingerprinted and have their homes checked out in order to, care for the children every once in a while. I think the kids would love that in most cases. But also it's just the reality of sometimes those relatives, they have a full schedule, they have a lot on their plate, and so adding so many hoops to jump through just isn't feasible for them. So that's it for the questions. I'm gonna go ahead and finish up my nails, and I'll post a picture on Instagram to show you guys how they turned out. John and I are gonna be wrapping the rest of the gifts this evening, and I do think we're gonna release a video on Christmas Day with basically all of our wrapping and talking about how we celebrate as a family and how we incorporate all the kids in our lives. So thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe. We hope you have a wonderful holiday, and we'll see you next time.